Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Daily Energy Markets Podcast. It is the 24th of April, and we've Brent crude oil essentially little change this morning at 66.29, up a few pennies. But after a drop yesterday where we saw the 2% drop on the potential that OPEC Plus, at least the reporting was that OPEC Plus output increase is going to continue to be accelerated as it was announced for May, triple then April. And then the question is what's going to be announced for June, and some indications that that acceleration continues. Let's go to Amina Bakr, head of Middle East Energy and OPEC Plus research at Kepler. Amina, your thoughts at the early soundings for where OPEC goes next. It seems there's still some sort of tensions in the group with Kazakhstan not coming on board with their disciplined or committed to output quotas.
Thank you, Sean. Yeah, it was always expected that Kazakhstan would have the most challenging times meeting these cuts and the compensation cuts, etc. From the three countries that have been missing their quotas, Kazakhstan is the second worst one after Iraq in terms of volumes. The issue is that Kazakhstan didn't really manage to find an agreement with all the foreign operators they have on the ground to cut their production. So they're having difficulty there. And we all saw the report yesterday with the energy minister being quoted by Reuters saying that they will prioritize national interests over OPEC quotas, which caused a bit of a chaotic situation in the markets. And then there was a statement released saying that they're still committed to trying to cut and still committed to being part of the group. And they see value in OPEC Plus managing the market and stabilizing the market. But I think their compliance is still going to continue to struggle. Let's see what they manage to achieve over the coming months. And looking into policy, Sean, I think the option of speeding up, keeping up with the same rate, or just adding an increment of 130, both those options are on the table. I don't see the group pausing or cutting at the moment, although they have surprised us with their decisions. But I do expect June to just continue the increments. It's still just unclear if it's going to be at a sped up rate or at the original rate where they said it was roughly 130,000 barrels.
Let's welcome to the table Iman Nasri, Managing Director of Middle East FGE Dubai. Iman, do you think OPEC Plus would be fairly content with the reaction to from the oil markets at 66 or so dollars? Had sort of lifted off the floor of 60 on Brent, that given their announcements over the last 2 months, i.e. to increase supply and accelerate increased supply into a global demand weakening market, that all in all, they should be pretty happy that prices are holding. Your thoughts on how they would be feeling, do you think, with the reaction from the markets?
Yes, I think they would continue to remain content. I think reading between lines and basically looking at their actions and reactions to the market over the past couple of years, what seems to be more important to the group, especially to the few leading members right now, is in integrity. And they have done quite a few times sacrifices for that integrity, and now they have a plan that is going to give them some rewards with the increased production. They managed to basically announce this accelerated one in April, which is another reward. The reaction was a sharp drop, but still manageable. I think there are big uncertainties still ahead of us, especially with the actions that Trump is doing to the economic situation globally. with the tariffs as well as the sanctions discussions that is going on in the background. Those two elements, each of them are multiple times the amount of these monthly additional production as per plan, or even the accelerated. And I think with the seasonal demand surge ahead of us, OPEC is trying to see if they can put back some barrels into the market, use that seasonality option, let the market figure out and basically let those uncertainties unfold basically over the next 2-3 months. I see two of these big or three, in fact, big uncertainties, which is Iran negotiations, Russia, Ukraine, and tariffs, which is now on hold, all basically have a natural an intrinsic deadline of 2 to 3 months. So with that 2-3 month, we're still on the uphill for demand seasonal, and OPEC will see how those will react, those will unfold, and then decide to put a hold or even maybe cut back into the original path and then continue. That's my view.
Maybe if and but. Let's stand with some concrete calls here, man. Come on. You're a brave fella. You're a brave boy. No ifs, ands, and buts.
We have a base case in our balances, and that base case is not an accelerated in June and continuation, but until end of the year we see them able to keep the production increase. However, we also have made a call on Iran, for example. There is no deal there, which is in terms of possibility increasing to be achieved, but there is no deal, and that is an element that would enable that production growth path.
Let's welcome Adi Imsirovic, Director, Surrey Clean Energy and Senior Associate at CSIS. Adi, in the big picture of things now, we're getting to the end of the first 100 days of Trump 2.0, and inevitably a very tumultuous 100 days indeed it has been. But on reflection, it's a lot of bark and no bite, it would appear, a lot of noise and indigestion, but ultimately Trump has shown that he's got really no backbone or no North Star to be guided by, and we've now passed through the worst of this turmoil. Your thoughts on that thesis as we get to 100 days on April 30th?
Morning, Sean. Yes, the easy question here. It's just what Trump administration have shown is that they really had a lot of ideology, but that they were very little prepared for this term. As you said, there was a lot of barking, no bite. Well, no bite. I'm not quite sure about that. I think there was a lot of biting oneself in the foot. I think if you look at the effective tariff rates right now globally, they're greater than during the Great Depression, and if they continue, we don't even the IMF report that came out a couple of days ago could not fathom all the possible implications. Their base case scenario is that the whole tariff situation is going to reduce growth from 3.3 to 2.8, so about 0.5% of GDP, which is going to lose us, 200,000-300,000 barrels of demand potentially. It's hard to tell at this stage. So for oil, that's certainly the question is what's going to happen next. Impossible to tell. I think Iman pointed that out. Scenarios range from, well, let's just go back to tariffs. First, there were tariffs, and then there was a backing down from tariffs. Then there was Trump saying, well, no, we won't blink first, but then they will. We don't know what's going to happen, actually. We have no idea. The whole situation with tariffs is such that I think eventually, if Trump keeps the current tariffs on, I think we'll see some shortages in the United States of certain products. And I think that will put a massive pressure on him to actually do something about it. And I think at the end of the day, there will be a unilateral climb down for the administration. The problem with the whole thing is the uncertainty. As IMF really well said, I think I haven't read the report, but I read their blog post on web. They said epistemic uncertainty and policy unpredictability is a major driver of the macro events. And as we know, Sean, macro is the main driver of the flat price for oil. So we are in a very, very difficult and unpredictable situation. Hopefully he will climb down. We'll see some recovery and the global economy will avoid recession, I think, most likely, and we'll just move on. With some hopefully additional barrels from OPEC, the world economy will continue to function. And by the way, just if I may just add a little bit about the OPEC, I think it's most welcome. These barrels are really welcome to rebalance the market. We've had very unbalanced market for oil with shortage of heavy sours, with plentiful sweet crudes, with Dubai trading at higher levels than Brent, and the market's been very unbalanced. So we really need some of that balancing back from OPEC.
I mean, just looking at that question, I mean, when you think about the reasons behind this, yes, you had a very unexpected acceleration in the increases that are coming now by OPEC Plus, but even to increase at all, which had been postponed a number of times over the last year, choosing a moment when the global GDP growth forecasts are being downgraded, just on the fundamentals of their stated goal over many years, balance the market, so to speak. Other than this fairly public review that a lot of commentators and media are focused on, i.e., bringing the countries that have not been committing to their quotas, bringing them back into line, is kind of the generally accepted narrative, as that's why OPEC Plus has made this decision to increase at this time. Are there other reasons? Are there other things in the thinking other than let's slap everybody because there's 2 or 3 laggards? What are the other reasons with OPEC Plus's thinking, do you think, about increasing supply, accelerating the increase in supply while global economic growth is being downgraded?
No, I see that. I mean, they're doing it at a time or in a window where you have the summer demand quite high in most of these countries. So the actual exports that are supplied to market, which really matters at the end of the day, is going to be kind of muted by the fact that you have a high domestic consumption of the barrels produced. So that's one side of it. The other side of it, of course, it's a time for them to be regaining some of this market share. Some of the members have been complaining that other states that have not been complying to their quotas have been taking a larger market share in growing markets such as Asia. So it's time, it's restoring a sense of balance and fairness among members and making sure that they regain their market share. You can think, I mean, there's a lot of speculation. You might think, you know, there is a political angle or a geopolitical angle to this, keeping prices low so they could hurt some members at a time where you have the U.S. perhaps negotiating, and this would help strengthen the relationship. But I really don't. I undermine this speculation. I don't think that's the main driver here. The main driver is around compliance and making sure that once you have a compliant group, Sean, and you want to impose a pause or a cut, the message becomes more valid. The market will believe you. So they know that all members will fall in line. So getting compliance in order, getting the house in order is the main reason here.
Iman, we had Indian Prime Minister visiting Saudi Arabia this week in terms of India's emergence as obviously a major energy partner for the Gulf. And there has been some talk in recent years that there was an announcement a number of years ago that Aramco and ADNOC together in a joint venture would invest in a massive new refinery and chemical complex in India. That never happened. Now we have some announcements of some new major construction of 2 refineries. Your thoughts on the visit, what the outlook for that, these announcements, do they feel tangible this time, whereas the last time nothing happened?
Can I answer that before, after just an additional comment to everything that
No.
Armina said?
Yes, please.
I agree, but I want to say that it's simpler than that. It's just basically the market allows them to do this, and they have to.
Sorry, what are we
accept, and they're
talking about now?
We're talking about the OPEC.
OPEC
All of
decision,
those
right?
additional those speculations, and you can put labels, but
Yes.
they have come to realization that we at these high prices, the non-OPEC supply will grow and will grow faster. So there needs to be some balance. You can't have both sides of the equation. You know, they have to continue to add barrels to the market. It will eventually lead to lower prices, but that's what it takes to slow down certain projects, certain countries not in non-OPEC plus.
So you're pointing at the idea that OPEC Plus's thinking is beyond group discipline. It's also to curtail some of these significant advancements in the likes of Guyana and Brazil and so forth.
Well, yes. So basically, there needs to be some adjustment in the market, rebalancing between non-OPEC growth and OPEC growth. If there is any, if we put back 5-6 million barrels per day of OPEC production, which is cut, the prices will drop to marginal cost of production, which at the moment may be $40 or less. So that's what it takes to basically bring things into balance. And now going to
India, if you're in
India,
Texas, you're probably wondering, you know, what is behind this decision? Because ultimately you need to know where is it going next, right? Because if indeed it is what you're saying, then if you're in Texas or Guyana, you've got to think a little bit. If it's just to get some OPEC members in discipline for a few months, then you could probably move ahead with your plans. But just quickly on the Saudi-India refinery agreement.
Yeah, I want to say that like that project, when it created lots of noise, we remained basically on our view that it's not going to happen for economic reasons. I think the time of these political relationships for energy trends and friendships have passed. Right, I think we're at the time that the life of oil demand growth is coming to an end, and adding more infrastructure, very expensive ones like those refineries that they discussed, is not going to be an easy decision to just be made to please another nation and strengthen the ties. I don't think that these decisions will ever see the light, like the last time that 5 NOCs came together and put a 1.2 million barrels per day West Coast India refinery. These things I think are more for political show than actual decisions to invest in a very expensive asset.
Adi, looking at it, the 3 months plus in now, 4 months, a third of the year gone, the big narrative before the Trump tariffs arrived was generally China demand weakness for all sorts of reasons. But that hasn't necessarily proven to be the case. Has the market, like last year, got it wrong the other way around, thinking that China would save the day? This year, the market sort of a general narrative was the opposite, but actually China's got a heartbeat and is surviving this Trump tariff war, whatever it should be called, looking fairly strong now.
Well, absolutely. I mean, China is ticking along quite nicely, probably a little bit below what they would like. They would like to see the growth of around 5%, which is a bit optimistic for a mature economy now. It's a mature economy. IMF now thinks that they're going to grow about 4% this year, which is quite good.
Well, for an OECD economy, that's amazing. For a low middle income economy, maybe not so much, because they still have about 500 million people that they need to bring, out of sort of significant low economic health. But yes, I get your point. They should be probably targeting a bit lower just on the average, never mind US tariffs and everything else.
Absolutely. As you said, quite rightly, 4% is pretty amazing. So in terms of going back to the oil market, in terms of the oil market, it's very positive, I think. Now, there are two caveats there. I think, demand for oil is a function of growth, economic growth, but it's also a function of price. And in the case of China in particular, it's very much a function of price. So I think a lot of buyers are very price sensitive, and it's a great opportunity, these low prices for China to top up their security as strategic reserves. And as we know, in China, strategic reserves are not exactly transparent. They're very much mixed with their commercial reserves. And I think this is a very good chance for them to buy, especially Russian oil. I think the last numbers that I saw was that they imported in March, I think, over 2 million barrels of Malaysian oil. So that's pretty good going for the Russian imports. On the other hand, also in terms of impact on other producers, is not that great if you actually see that China has actually been increasing their own production.
Yeah.
So now China is producing about 4.6 million barrels a day, which puts them in the top 5 producers in the world. And this year they're expected to add about 150,000 barrels a day. So that's not particularly bullish for the other oil producers. And going back to your question for Amina and Iman, I totally agree with it. And I would just add one more small thing, is that, you know what, Sean, OPEC haven't got much of a choice here. They've got 6 million barrels to bring back to market. And when are you going to do it? You're not going to do it when
the
it goes
majority
down.
of them are sitting around our neighborhood here,
Yep.
with 3 in Saudi and 1.5 in the UAE alone.
Yep.
That's a lot of money.
Absolutely. And one more very important thing, since I'm here, regarding what Kazakhstan said yesterday, totally agree with Amina. I think I would make it a little bit more dramatic, because when they said that they were supporting their national interest, that's exactly, if you recall, what Angola and Qatar said before leaving OPEC. So I think it was good to see them coming back and sort of qualifying that statement. But that's something that I think OPEC is taking into account very, very seriously.
Yeah, it seems nearly inevitable that either everybody increases or Kazakhstan probably finds another place. Survey question is tackling the overarching thesis here. Peak Trump turmoil for global markets will be behind us as first 100 days comes to a close on April 30th. Peak Trump turmoil for global markets will be behind us, is behind us. Trump saying, no, I'm not going to fire your man at the Fed. No, the bond market, oh my God, that's bigger than me. I mean, every time he's come up against a hard rock, it's a reverse. Yes, you can detain some poor innocent Venezuelan or El Salvadorian who has no power, or some young Turkish student, and throw them in the gulag. But when it comes up against anything of scale, he's negotiating with himself on China, it seems, in terms of he's conceding to China without China even negotiating, which is kind of interesting. So peak Trump turmoil is behind us. Agree or disagree with that thesis? Amina, you mentioned it in your earlier comments, and I just wanted to sort of get behind it. That a bit was that actually Iraq is a bigger violator than Kazakhstan. Where does that stand? How does that fit into this and into the solution as Iraq now looks at reopening its pipeline to Turkey, and as we go into a supposedly May 5th meeting for OPEC Plus, where does Iraq stand in all of this?
Sure. No, on the pipeline, Sean, I mean, they've been wanting to open that for a really long time. We keep seeing that, it's coming online, and I don't see it happening anytime soon. So that's kind of in pending. I wouldn't be worried about that. But we have been seeing more effort from the Iraqi side to slash exports. So that's promising, and there's a lot more behind the leadership in Iraq, the ministry, and so on, and making sure that production is reduced and exports are slashed, and we are seeing that in the data. So Iraq is doing better. Russia as well. I mean, they have commitment. The real issue is Kazakhstan. I mean, if you don't have a disruption again from the CPC pipeline by Russia, we see it very difficult for them to comply to the quotas that they were given. And yeah, they're just they're going to continue to struggle with that. The issue of I mean, you kind of hinted at it, but of having everybody increase, that would maybe require an adjustment of quotas like the UAE had. The UAE got an adjustment, so perhaps maybe some kind of adjustment would help that. Honestly, I don't see Kazakhstan walking out of the group. The statements coming in that kind of corrected what was said initially, doesn't indicate to me that they are going to be walking out of the group. And there's a lot of pressure on Kazakhstan from Russia. So Russia has a big say in Kazakhstan remaining as part of the OPEC Plus alliance. So I don't see them walking out. And maybe down the line, if there is some general adjustments to quotas, to baselines, that would help the compliance issue to some extent.
Iman, I wanted just to close out with your comment, the inquiry you mentioned about Iran conflict, that or the Iran negotiation talks with the US, that I think you said you do not expect a deal, and Trump has said that no deal equals a war or an attack. How do you square those circles, and why isn't oil at $150 if that's the case?
Yeah. So far, we have kept our base case as one without a deal. And you're right that in the exchange of threats and all of that, well, Trump says many things, right? And the war, the shadow of war has been over this for a year, if not longer. And it's easy to threaten, to bring people with more fear to the table of negotiation, and then say, okay, yes, I'm considering for another year, 2, 3, a war is coming. So I would not necessarily put these two next to each other, that the no deal equals immediate start of a war. The war is a much bigger decision for a Trump administration than just adding to the sanctions that they have been doing and basically tightening the screws on everyone and anyone who is caught basically in the Iran trade. So that's our base case scenario. The deal is becoming more and more likely as they continue to talk, because it was easy to see them basically walk away, like Zelensky's first visit to White House. It could have been same thing in their first meeting, but it went into the second, and now they have agreed to start technical experts. So that only shows that the both sides' claims are not too aggressive, too bad, to put things into
the gap between the two
Yes.
is close enough that they can actually find a pathway to a deal. What about Adi in Russia, Ukraine? Big news overnight. The Trump administration essentially kind of publicly saying, yeah, give Putin everything he's won by force. And silly Zelensky, why are you not accepting that? Where do you think that goes at this time?
I don't think it's going anywhere, Sean. I think Zelensky said himself is basically out of question. Trump I think what Trump administration would like to do is what they promised, within 48 hours to have peace. And to be honest, I don't think they care they would like to sign some sort of peace just to say, here, we said it, we've done it. But, you know, Zelensky's got Europe's back. Europe is very, very firmly behind Zelensky and saying they're not accepting Crimea being part of Russia or any other occupied territory. So I just don't see, it all goes back to basic politics. I'm not a politician, but unless you have all the parties at the table agreeing, you won't have an agreement. And that's not happening right now.
And when you put that, you would put obviously Europe and Zelensky, obviously, but Europe as part of that conversation.
Well, absolutely, because if there is peace, there's somebody has to put some troops on the ground to keep that peace. And who is going to do it? It's not going to be China. It's going to be Europe. And without Europe being there, there's not going to be a peace agreement.
It does seem that in the context of the basic principles of rewarding aggression as a sort of new rule of geopolitical, the sort of rules of the road would seem a very, very difficult one to swallow, certainly for Europe. But we'll have to wait and see these two big talks, Iran, US, Ukraine, Russia, US. Do they deliver? Peak Trump turmoil. Well, don't be an idiot, Sean. Peak Trump turmoil is with us way beyond April 30th. Well, that certainly seems to be with us now. That's for sure. I think the dog has caught the car, or whatever it is. It just seems to me that this turmoil is proving to be somewhat vacuous. But how you react to it, of course, is the key. And that's maybe what's changed in the first 100 days, people learning how to react to it. Like Iman there at FGE saying the reaction unlikely to deliver a deal in Iran. Thank you guys for your time today. Amina Bakr at Kepler, Iman Nasri at FGE, and Adi Absirovic at Surrey. Thank you so much. We got an interview with the Global Head of Shipping Research at S&P, and of course, shipping at oil brokerage. Got my things wrong there. But obviously, it's a critical area to keep an eye on at the moment, all things happening in shipping. And one of the things we didn't mention, but worth noting and passing, is that Iran's Navy pulled out of the Red Sea for the first time in something like 30 years, I think, over the weekend, which, for whatever that tells us about anything, it's a big change moment, if nothing else. All the best, everybody. Oil, little change so far this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sean.
Bye.
Bye.